guys, welcome to part 5 of the Norma Jean Review Series. This time we're going to be taking a look at the album Meridional. Their last album, Verse the Anti-Mother, I did like it. Like I said, it's a lot more accessible. It's a more melodic album. It's definitely a change in style from the band. It's a lot more hard rock influence, a lot of alternative metal from like the early 2000s. Even the frontman of the Deftones, Chino Moreno, worked on one of the songs in the album, and you can definitely hear the influence of that style throughout. It's a lot more, accessible of an album. It's not as harsh or as heavy as their previous albums. I think Meridional kind of brings a lot of the heaviness back, particularly the style of their first album. It's still not gonna appeal to people who are looking for that mathcore sound. It's not as frantic or as fast-paced as what they've done before in the past. The opening track, Leaderless and Self-Enlisted, kind of, you could hear the elements of it. You could definitely hear the influence. Even the second song, the follow-up, which is Anthem of the Angry Brides, that song definitely can kind of hear it in there. But throughout the album, while there's an influence of it, it's definitely not there. It's not as, like I said, frantic. I would say, if anything, this album, what brings back the heaviness of it, it's more kind of, if you're just that like sludge metal, just that oppressive kind of slower paced heavy metal sound to it. Norma Jean obviously brings their own style to it. It's more accessible, kind of. I wouldn't say, like I said, Anti-Mother kind of used the word poppy on it, about as poppy as Norma Jean's ever been. I would not use that word on this album, even though there are a lot of melodic parts to it, a lot of slower parts to it. It definitely brings back that heaviness that was kind of missing with Anti-Mother, but still not that fast-paced, what a lot of people liked about Norma Jean in the past. That there's really, this is nothing you would call a mathcore album. You'd see the influences there, you could see how they might have started off as a mathcore band or such, but this is not that album. As far as who I would recommend this album to, I would say for older Norma Jean fans, the same warning I gave to the last album, Verse the Anti-Mother, applies here. If you can look past the stylistic change in it, it's a great album. It's heavy. A lot of the songs are awesome to listen to. It's a thorough album. There's nothing, that seems out of place on this album. There's nothing that seems unfinished on this album. It's polished. It's produced well. The songs are extremely good, but it's definitely a huge change in the style for the band. It's heavier than Verse the Anti-Mother, so if that's what you were kind of missing in that, you'll definitely find it here. One thing I would say also, kind of as a bit of a warning, is there's a lot of religious imagery and motifs in this album that really kind of have been under the surface in their previous albums, but are kind of brought to the very, very forefront here. They're not pulling punches with the religious aspects of their lyrics in this album, particularly with the songs Falling from the Sky, Day 7, and Deathbed Atheists. They're never preachy, which I appreciate. They're never kind of trying to shove it down your throat or feel preachy. It's more makes you think about things, I would say. If you're not Christian, or you don't identify with any kind of religion or anything, you may kind of be put off a little bit by it. I say, give it a chance. Don't try to be put off by it. Look past that. Like I said, it's never too preachy to the point where you feel like, listening to this album, if you're not a follower of Christianity, that you are going to be judged for it just for listening to this album. They're not judging you for that. It's just that it is there. It is something you should kind of be aware of going into this album, because it can be a little bit off-putting for some people. If you can look past that, definitely. I think the lyrics, even with the religious aspects, kind of are a huge strong suit on this album. They're definitely a step up from Anti-Mother and previous albums. It's just that, again, the religious aspect is there. It is at the forefront this time. It's not hiding in the background. It's not under the surface. It is there. Thank you for watching part 5 of the Norma Jean Review Series. Next time we're going to take a look at their last album, Wrongdoer. Definitely look forward to that. One thing I do want to say about this album, kind of as a follow-up, I did talk about it towards the end, the religious imagery and lyrics in this album, And one thing I always like to say that I do personally with this album is there's another album that came out around this time that's sort of in a similar style of music, kind of that sludge heavy metal sound to it. It's by a band called The Ocean. Norma Jean actually toured with The Ocean during one of their tours, and The Ocean released an album around the same time as Meridional called Anthropocentric, and it's kind of a foil to Meridional. While Meridional is definitely about Christianity and, you know, atheists, like the song Atheist Deathbed Atheist, which is about, you know, crying out to God. Even atheists cry out to God at the end of their life. And Anthropocentric is kind of the exact opposite. It's about the dangers of religion, and it refers to Christianity as a sinking ship, and there's a lot of anti-religious imagery in it. And it's a great album to listen to. I think it's definitely, The Ocean are very underrated, underappreciated band. And I just think that listening to these albums back to back kind of gives a nice contrast to it, especially if you're somebody who's doesn't really have a feeling either way towards religion or atheism or whatever. If you're a Christian and that's your religion, that's great. You're probably not going to like Anthropocentric. You're probably going to identify more with Meridional. If you can't set that aside and listen to Anthropocentric, you know, that no problem there. Same thing as somebody who is extremely atheist and, you know, hates Christianity and all that stuff. You know, you're probably going to identify more towards Anthropocentric, and, you know, Meridional's probably not going to be your cup of tea, but, you know, to everyone else, I really think you should kind of listen to them back to back, you know, because here we have two similar styles of music, two different bands at completely opposite ends of the religious spectrum here, and I just think it's such a nice contrast listening to them, and they work so well that I personally almost automatically listen to them back to back. Like, if I listen to Anthropocentric, I'm going right to Meridional. If I listen to Meridional, I'm going right to Anthropocentric, and it's just it does work well together. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. Appreciate the views. If you want to leave a comment, please do. Let us know how we're doing. You can check out the rest of the review series down below, as well as links to the website. Thank you.